Hey, I'm Dr. Chris Martine. I am a botany professor here at Bucknell University and the president-elect of the Botanical Society of America. For my research, I study ecology and evolution of plants, and in particular, plant reproductive biology. And today, we are going to talk about plants in the world of Harry Potter. So this is Hogwarts. We can see the greenhouse in the distance there. This is the setup to say that one of the key elements of the curriculum is the herbology coursework, right? And it's just such a great looking greenhouse, similar to what we have at Bucknell, but a bit more space. And there's Professor Sprout, if you could pause that, please. So Professor Sprout is sort of, embodying all of these caricatures about a professor, and particularly somebody who I think really loves plants. I would love to say that I don't share the same style as Professor Sprout, but the truth is I do a lot of field work in Australia, and when I'm out in the outback, I look a lot like that. The clothes are pretty similar, and the hat is only slightly different than what you see there. Professor Sprout is introducing a plant to the class today. This is the mandrake, mandragora. That is actually the correct Latin name for this plant. So this is a real plant. It's been used since ancient times as a sedative and a painkiller, but it is highly toxic. You don't want to mess with this plant. And in this scene, you also don't want to mess with the plant, but for a reason that is not really connected to reality. One thing that's true about mandrake is that that name, mandrake, comes from the fact that the roots look like a person, like a man. And you'll see when Professor Sprout pulls the plant out of the pot, that's the case, but the plant also screams really loud, and it's so loud that it would hurt people's ears. So Professor Sprout is asking the students to put earmuffs over their ears to protect themselves. Now, I don't often ask students to do that in my classes, but I do teach a field botany course here at Bucknell that runs right into the middle of December, so there have been a lot of students with earmuffs on in my class, but not for the reason of this especially loud scream. Now, the students all have their responses, but the one student who can't take it, the one student who faints, is that fella Neville Longbottom. And Neville's going to become a really important part of this story as we move forward. So we establish right away that this is some sort of weird plant thing going on. Hermione begins to explain, like, you gotta relax because this thing is going to grab you and start, trying to grasp around you. And these are basically vines, underground vines that are wrapping around the kids. Now this is, of course, not real, but plants do this amazing thing, and vines in particular, called thigmotropism. This is a thing that I think always makes an impression in my intro botany course here at Bucknell, where they can actually feel when they come in contact with something, and they will grow in such a way that they wrap around that object, and it helps to pull them up into the air. So vines are doing this all the time. Hermione would know this, right? As Harry Potter says, she always paid close attention in herbology. So in this next clip, we are at the Triwizard Tournament, and Harry Potter is one of the representatives from Hogwarts that's competing, and the challenge here is to rescue a classmate who is underwater in the lake, and Neville Longbottom has just handed him a little bit of a plant called Gillyweed. This is actually not a real plant, but it sure would be cool if it was. This is like the evolution of Neville Longbottom occurring, right before our eyes. He's become a master student at herbology, and he's sharing that knowledge with Harry Potter here. We don't know what's going to happen here, but what I can tell you is that a plant doesn't exist that gives you the gift of breathing underwater. So even though it occurs here, it's not a real thing. And there we see the gills emerging. Harry Potter's becoming basically a fish. Holy carp, would that be cool? See what I did there? And then Harry comes flying up out of the water, and we see once again that knowledge of plants wins the day. In this final clip, we now have the full blossoming of Neville Longbottom, right? Not only a great herbology student, but he really becomes the hero of the story here, right? We see somebody that's gone from, like fainting in the botany lab to now being the person who really does save humanity. I don't have a lot of students that save the whole world by the time they graduate from Bucknell, but there's a big change that often happens with students from first year to the day they graduate. And this is a big commencement moment for Neville Longbottom. Here he is, he's facing Voldemort, he who shall not be named. The Death Eaters are all around, right? And in this moment, we don't see the shrinking Violet as Neville Longbottom. We see him sort of step up and become super brave. I would like to believe that as a herbologist, right, as a person studying plants, that this is a good model for the sorts of things that we really do as botanists and plant scientists, right? There's lots of challenges in this world, and so many of them, whether it's hunger or illness or or sort of the environment itself. We can do a lot about those things if we sort of just learn about plants. Plants are the basis for all of the global ecosystem. So I'm not that surprised to see that Neville Longbottom is actually the one who becomes the hero of this story. And in this moment, here he is kind of about to save the world. I want to invite all sorts of people, not just my students here at Bucknell, but anyone with a passion for science and nature and plants to become part of this community of scientists that are trying to make the world a better place. And I want you to know that there's a seat at the table for all sorts of folks to join this endeavor, to become heroes like Neville Longbottom, the herbologist, Neville Longbottom, the mother botanist.